Imagine living in a world where even breathing could be taxed, because the first tax in history was far stranger than you think. People today complain about tax, but humanity has been paying taxes for over 5,000 years. And the first tax ever created wasn't income tax, property tax, or trade tax. It was something so unusual that modern economists still laugh when they read about it. This is where the evolution of tax truly begins. To find the oldest tax system, we travel back to Mesopotamia around 3000 BC. This region, known as the cradle of civilization, created the world's earliest organized government, and rulers quickly discovered one universal truth. People hate giving money, but they accept giving food. So the first tax in human history was a grain tax. Farmers were forced to hand over a portion of their harvest to the king. It didn't matter if the rains came late or the crops failed. Tax was due every single year. If farmers refused to pay, the punishment was intense and public. Authorities wanted everyone to know that tax was non-negotiable. The collected grain didn't just feed the rulers. It funded armies, supported temples, built irrigation systems, and fed workers. In a way, the birth of civilization and the birth of tax happened together. Then the system became even more advanced in ancient Egypt. The Nile River's unpredictable flooding created challenges for agriculture. Some farmers tried to hide their harvest to avoid paying tax. So the Egyptian government invented a clever solution. They created the world's first official tax collectors, known as scribes. These scribes measured fields, calculated crop capacity, and checked storage barns. If your numbers didn't match their expectations, your tax increased instantly. Arguing was useless. The scribe's word was final. Egypt took taxation so seriously that even kitchen oil was taxed. People were forced to buy oil from government sources only. And after cooking, they had to return the used oil so it couldn't be reused without tax. Imagine a system where even your cooking leftovers were monitored. This shows how deeply taxation was linked to daily life thousands of years ago. From grain taxes to oil taxes, early societies built massive structures and armies with these collections. Without tax, ancient empires could not survive. And without these early systems, modern taxation would never exist. This was just the beginning. The next great shift in tax history happened in Greece, the birthplace of philosophy and democracy. But even democracy couldn't escape taxes. What Greece introduced would inspire future tax systems for centuries. In ancient Greece, taxes evolved into something far more structured and philosophical. The Greeks introduced a system called istory. This was a special war tax collected only when the city needed money for ships, weapons, or soldiers. But here's the surprising part. Once the war ended, the government returned the money to the citizens. Yes, 2,000 years before modern governments, Greece issued tax refunds. It showed that taxes were not only a burden but also a shared responsibility. However, not all Greek taxes were generous. The metic tax was placed on foreigners living in Athens. If you were not born in Athens, you paid a monthly fee simply for living there. It was literally a tax on existence. This strange idea later influenced many modern residency taxes. Then came the Roman Empire, the true powerhouse of taxation. Rome understood one thing better than any civilization before it. If you want to control a massive empire, you need a strong tax system. Rome taxed land. Rome taxed property. Rome taxed goods. Rome taxed slaves. And Rome even taxed urine. The Emperor Vespasian introduced this unusual tax because urine was collected and sold to tanners for leather processing. When his son complained that the idea was disgusting, Vespasian held up a coin and famously said, "Money doesn't smell." From this moment, the phrase pecunia non olet became part of history. Rome also created the world's first structured income tax. At first, the rate was only 1%, but during wartime, it increased to 3%. Citizens hated the idea. But Rome needed massive funding to manage roads, armies, public baths, and administrative systems. Taxes kept the empire functioning efficiently. After the fall of Rome, Europe entered the medieval era, and with it came some of the strangest taxes ever seen. One of the most hated was the window tax, introduced in England. The belief was simple. More windows meant a bigger house, and a bigger house meant more wealth. So homes were taxed, based on the number of windows they had. People responded in the weirdest way. They bricked up their windows to avoid paying. Even today, Old English buildings show sealed windows because of this tax. Another strange medieval tax was the hearth tax. You paid for every fireplace in your home. Poor families suffered during freezing winters because they couldn't afford extra fireplaces. Imagine your basic warmth being taxed. These medieval systems show how creative and cruel taxation could become. And yet, this was still not the final transformation of the tax world. As the world moved into modern times, taxation took a new direction. In 1799, Britain introduced what we now recognize as the first modern income tax. It was created to fund the war against Napoleon, and the government promised it was only temporary. But history shows one universal rule. Any tax that starts as temporary eventually becomes permanent. Income tax stayed and expanded. Across the Atlantic, the American colonies experienced their own tax revolution. In 1773, Britain imposed a tax on tea. The colonists were furious. They believed the tax was unfair and a sign of tyranny, so they staged a dramatic protest. They threw an entire shipment of British tea into Boston Harbor. This event, known as the Boston Tea Party, triggered the American Revolution. So yes, one of the world's most powerful nations was born because of a tax protest. In the 20th century, taxation systems became even more complex. Governments introduced sales tax, corporate tax, payroll tax, property tax, and excise duties. Income tax rates once reached as high as 90% during major wars. Tax structures expanded to match growing economies. As technology changed, new forms of taxation appeared. E-commerce tax emerged. Digital service tax became normal. Countries introduced crypto tax for digital currencies. Carbon tax was added to fight climate change. Streaming platforms and online businesses now pay digital taxes worldwide. The tax world never stops evolving. Throughout history, people have always believed they lived in the worst tax era. But ancient people paid taxes on grain, oil, windows, fireplaces, and even urine. Compared to them, modern taxes may not be as strange, just more organized. But one truth stays the same. Taxes build societies. Taxes build roads. Taxes support schools, armies, hospitals, and governments. Taxes hold civilization together. No leader in history has ever truly reduced tax permanently. Kings didn't do it. Emperors didn't do it. Modern governments don't do it. Taxes, once created, rarely disappear. From Mesopotamia to modern digital economies, taxation has shaped the destiny of nations. It has started wars, funded revolutions, and built empires. It is one of the oldest systems humanity has ever created. And the funniest part? After 5,000 years, no one has figured out how to escape it. Where there is government, there is tax. And where there is society, tax becomes the price of living in it. Want more powerful stories like this? Hit like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who complains about taxes every day.